Hello, welcome back. We are going to continue to read the novel Lord of the Mysteries by Cuttlefish That Loves Diving, Volume 1 The Clown. Last time we read up to chapters 76 to 78, I think. Yes, so Clan killed the clown, and then we dealt with the aftermath of him being traumatized by kill by his first kill, and we found the Antigonus family's notebook and the artifact 2049, and the notebook is being returned to China's Gate. And yes, Clan was Dunn mentioned that Clan would be now a full member of the team after confirmation from the church headquarters. Okay, so let's continue today with chapter 79. Chapter 79, Another Murmuring. Klein instantly felt his hair stand on the end as the icy hand tightened around his wrist. He instinctively pulled his wrist back in a desperate attempt to escape. A heavy sensation bore down on him as Klein used every fiber of his strength in his body to yank his arm back. Bam! The pale, naked corpse was yanked so forcefully to the side that it fell from the autopsy table. However, the white ice cold fingers grip remained firmly lashed onto Klein's wrist. Klein momentarily lost the ability to think. The only thought that went through his mind was to draw his revolver and riddle the corpse in holes. However, as he could not retract his dominant hand, he threw his black cane and desperately tried to retrieve the revolver from his holster to no avail. At that moment, the corpse's eyes rose, revealing a pair of calm blue eyes. His mouth moved as he muttered, Onassis, Onassis, Onassis. After those three words were said, Klein was completely flustered as he felt the fingers gripping onto his wrist began to loosen after drooping limp. The suited clown's eyes were shut once again as though nothing had happened at all. If the pale corpse wasn't lying on the stone floor, Klein would have imagined that he had been struck by a hallucination spell. He staggered backwards few steps, and felt most of his body was trembling as a result of shock and fear. Klein gasped for air as he slowly regained his control. He slowly regained control of his mental facilities. He looked at the corpse on the ground in alarm and fear. He drew his revolver and carefully retreated from the room, one step at a time. After confirming that the corpse was motionless, he took a glance at his wrist of the hand holding onto his revolver. There were 5 deep red finger marks imprinted on his wrist. They silently described his encounter. Klein calmed down as vulgarities filled his mind. Fucking hell. I almost died from the shock. After panting for more than 10 seconds, he began assembling items in his mind to quickly compose himself. He carefully recalled everything that he encountered and pieced them together. Although he did not understand the reason for Suited Clown's resurrection, he acutely noticed an important point. The corpse had repeated the word Hornassus. It's Hornassus again. Clan knitted his brows. The Antigonus family's notebook had records of a nation of the Evernite in the Hornassus mountain range. While in cogitation or spirit vision, I would hear sounds that I shouldn't be able to hear, and among these sounds were the word Hornassus. Is the answer to all these questions on the Hornassus mountain range? There might be massive dangers lurking there. For example, an evil god might be sealed within or was using various forms of attraction to achieve freedom. While considering this, Klein carefully entered the room and touched the corpse a few times to verify that it was completely dead. He didn't want Corpse Collector Fry to see him mess up the place, so he mustered his courage to move the corpse back onto the autopsy table. Klein couldn't help but feel as though his heart was in his mouth throughout the process. The slightest movement could snap his tense nerves. Furthermore, the ice cold feeling given out by the corpse felt particularly disgusting. After finishing the mission with great difficulty, he recalled the reason he approached the corpse. Therefore, he focused on the suited clown's wrist and looked at the strange brand. It was unknown when the brand had slipped off, shrinking to spherical blob of blood, sorry, spherical blob of blood which had tint of blue. The spherical blob of blood, oh, that's difficult. The spherical blob of blood was the size of a thumb. It floated in midair silently in defiance of the laws of physics. What is this? Klein muttered. He didn't dare touch it rashly. He had no intention of hiding the blood sphere. First, he didn't know if it was a good or bad thing. Secondly, he was certain that Fry, who had examined the corpse, would have long discovered the brand on the wrist. It was even likely that he knew what the strange blood sphere was. And even if Fry doesn't know, reporting it to the captain and letting Nighthawks research it is definitely better than me making random attempts. That was Klein's train of thought. Being in an organization meant he had to know how to make use of the organization's power to its fullest. Klein waited nervously for a few minutes before he saw the black-haired, blue-eyed, and thin-lipped Fry return. He instantly noticed the strange blood sphere and asked Klein a question he had previously asked himself. What is this? No idea. Klein shook his head honestly. He recounted what had happened without hiding anything. The brand slipped off into a blood sphere. Ryan nodded, seemingly deep in thought. The corpse of the Beyonder always tend to have some strange transformations. He looked up and said to Klein, bring the captain here. Inform him about the contents that the corpse muttered as well. All right, Klein was already itching to leave. You don't have to return with the captain, Fry added. I believe you won't like to see what happens next. The Topsy. As he spoke, he picked up a silver surgical knife beside him. Klein nodded with some lingering fear. I was hoping you would say that. He picked up his cane, wore his hat, and hobbled over to the Janus gate. At the keeper's room, he saw the no longer frail Captain Dunn. After Dunn heard his recollections of what happened, he nodded indiscernibly. Indiscernibly. I'll report the matter to the higher ups and let the Holy Cathedral deal with it. Maybe they'll send people to the main peak of Onassis mountain range to take a look. Clan answered briefly in confirmation. Seeing that only sleepless Kenley and the captain were in the keeper's room, he casually asked, are Mr. Ayer and others resting? Dunn nodded and said, Ayer and Borgia are at St. Selena's Cathedral. Lorota is probably looking for a coffee shop. Coffee? Madame Loretta hasn't recovered from her injuries, right? Klein asked in surprise. Dunn massaged his nose bridge and said with a laugh, Loretta has three hobbies: coffee, dessert, and maidservants. She says she needs these three things to speed up her recovery. Maidservants? Klein asked, perplexed. Does Madame Loretta have a particular fetish? Dunn shook his head helplessly and said, she likes maidservants. Yeah, that's right. Furthermore, she likes the one with big breasts. She sure is weird. No kidding. Client had no idea what kind of expression he should show in response. Dunn didn't delay. Oh, Dunn didn't delay any further as he headed out the keeper's room. As Clan watched his back, he silently waited for him to turn. Meanwhile, he noticed at the corner of his eye that the sleepless Kenley has fished out his pocket watch and opened it. 3, 2, 1. The moment Clan finished counting down, Dunn stopped and turned around. Another thing I forgot, Klein. You went through a lot today. Once you relax, you'll feel exhausted. There's no need for you to be here in the afternoon. Go back and get some rest. Tomorrow I'll submit the application listing the detailed losses. All right. Don't worry too much about your killing of a beyonder. Killing him was equivalent to saving more lives. As a matter of fact, I'm actually feeling much better. Klein exhaled silently. Dunn nodded slightly, and as he turned around, he smacked himself in the forehead. I have also handed the Beyonder sketch to Leonard. He and the police department are in charge of the follow-up investigation. I believe that the Beyonder must have rode on parked carriages, eaten food, and had somewhere to stay. Wherever he steps, whatever he touches, whatever he leaves behind, even unconsciously, will serve as a silent witness against him. Emperor Roselle's were tru- Emperor Emperor Roselle words were truly sensible. Yes, Clan answered, stupefied. After the captain walked far away, he left the keeper's room and slowly walked to the second floor. Along the way, he suddenly recalled something as he experienced an additional bout of fear. That suited clown claimed that the secret order controlled the corresponding sequence pathway of Sears. Even if he was exaggerating and they didn't have the higher sequence potion formulas, they definitely have the lower sequence ones. It also means they have a number of Sears. Then, wouldn't they divine that I killed the suited clown and secretly exact revenge against me? If they can't deal with uh, if they can't deal with the Nighthawks, can't they deal with me, a seer without any direct measures against enemies? Klein stopped in the stairwell and began thinking about the problem seriously. Soon he discovered that he was worrying over nothing. Firstly, the secret order doesn't know who are the members of the Nighthawks. Secondly, even if they know one or two, they definitely wouldn't include a civilian staff member like me. Thirdly, under the present circumstances, unless they have a prophet, they there's no way they can divine who the murderer is. He heaved a sigh of relief and left Blackthorn Security Company. He took a public carriage back to Daffodil Street. Even though he hadn't eaten lunch yet, he still lacked the appetite. After entering his bedroom, Klein removed his damaged suit first. Then he took off his half-top hat, got into bed, and tried to sleep. His mind remained active as though his entire existence couldn't relax. His mind wasn't repeating the scene of him shooting the suited clown to death, but of the scene of him moving the corpse and that hair-raising experience. He no longer felt uncomfortable for killing for the first time, but more of a disgust when he thought about it. This was probably Fry's goal. He had hoped I would approach the corpse and face it directly to overcome my trauma. But even though the trauma from before is gone, I have been traumatized by something else. Klein gave a self deprecating laugh as he gradually felt his nerve calm down. He had no idea when he dozed off, but when he woke up, his stomach was groaning in protest. I feel like I can eat an entire horse, Klein muttered as he looked at the sun setting in the west as though the sky was alit. Changing into old but comfortable casual clothes, he briskly walked to the first floor. Before he could consider what to make for dinner, he heard the door open. Melissa? The corners of his mouth curled up at the thought. Since she began taking the public carriage, his sister no longer returned home late. The key twisted as the door opened. Melissa walked in with her bag that contained her books and stationery. She looked at the kitchen and said, Client, there is a letter for you. It's from your mentor. A letter from mentor? Right. I wrote to ask I wrote to him asking about the relevant historical situation of the Harnassus main peak. Client was taken aback at first before he recalled the matter. Chapter 80 Banquet Invitation. After having dinner, a satiated, satiated client casually lounged on the living room sofa. He used a small letter opener to open the letter he received from his mentor. Melissa was sitting at the dining table at the time, working hard on a textbook problem with gas lamp for illumination. Benson was cradled in a single seater, a reading Accountancy for Beginners. Klein found the 3 pages in the letter that he read with both fear and anticipation. Very happy to receive your letter. It reminds me of the good old days over the past few years. Unfortunately, Welch and Naya have left us forever. I attended their burial separately and could feel their parents' anguish. The two of them were young adults who were supposed to have beautiful, bright futures ahead of them. Fate is always so unpredictable. No one can know what will happen to you next. I've experienced more as I have grown older, and I can increasingly sense the weakness and helplessness of humanity. Regarding the historical information revolving around Hornas's main peak, I recall that the archaeologist Mr. John Joseph once published a monograph detailing it. It includes his accounts of his time at Hornas's main peak. He discovered a few ancient buildings that are more than 1,000 years old. What shame every historian and archaeologist is our what shames every historian and archaeologist is our inability to precisely date that era. We can only make a crude estimate based on the architecture style, the characteristics of the murals, and a few texts that we can decipher. It's quite unbelievable that such a tall mountain peak would have humans living in it. Mr. Joseph had ample evidence to prove that those humans developed a civilization that they call their own. As for the details, it is hard to fully describe them in this letter. I suggest you try borrowing this monograph from the Deweyville Library. Trust me, Sir Deweyville's donation to this library makes it have more books in its collection than the one built by the city government. The monograph's title is Research of Onassis Main Peaks Relics. It's published by a low-end publishing firm. In addition, there are some pages that discuss something of relevance. They are published in the journals New Archaeology, Archaeology Summary. The exact issue and journal volume is dot, dot, dot. Client read every word and repeated the names of monograph and the paper names silently. Immediately afterward, he found some paper and an envelope, as well as a fountain pen before penning his gratitude. Melissa, help me send this letter out. This is the money for the stamps. Client placed the sealed envelope and more than enough money for the stamps on his sister's desk. Melissa took a glance and curled her lips. Client, stamps don't cost that much. Yes, stamps don't. But a girl should have some allowance. Client replied with a smile. I believe Selina mentioned this to you before. Noticing that Melissa was about to protest, he quickly added, it can be used to buy materials and tools you need. Tools? Melissa repeated softly again and again before casting her gaze back onto the books. On her onto her books. All right, she said as she nodded imperceptibly. Imperceptibly. The corners of Client's mouth immediately curved upwards as he briskly walked to the sofa. Excellent persuasion skills. You precisely pinpointed Melissa's weakness. Benson gave a thumbs up as he said in a suppressed laugh. Client cleared his throat and said in all seriousness, then how shall I persuade you? Your self study should emphasize language and ancient literature. Of course, basic mathematics and logic are equally important. According to the curriculum of public schools and grammar schools, as well as the material tested in the college admissions, Klein was very confident about the general direction in which the upcoming civil service servant examination would focus on. Benson touched his hairline and said with a self-deprecating smile, I feel like a curly-haired baboon in front of those books. But they are really useful, Klein said with a determined smile. At that moment, Melissa put down her fountain pen, stood up, and walked to the sofa. Benson, Klein, this Sunday is Selena's birthday. She and her parents wish to invite all of us to their place for a banquet. Are both of you free? Should be fine for me, Klein said in after some thought. He could take the opportunity to be acquainted with his sister's friends. It could prevent him from being utterly clueless whenever something happened to her. Me too, Benson said as he combed his hairs with his fingers. It looks like we'll have to think of a birthday present for Miss Selena. Klein smiled. This should be left to Melissa. She knows Miss Selena better than us. Besides, what we need to do is what a gentleman ought to do. Pay for it. This is the first time I have heard someone describe laziness in such a pleasant manner, Benson said as he shook his head and chuckled. Klein returned with a smile. This is the purpose of language and ancient literature. Benson never expected Klein to return to the subject at hand. It left him momentarily speechless. Next day, Klein wore his cheap formal suit and held his black inlaid silver cane as he climbed up the stairs and arrived at the Blackthorn Security Company's entrance. His tuxedo had already been sent to the tailors. Dunn, Klein was just about to greet Roseanne when he saw Captain Dunn walk out of the partition. Good morning, Klein. Did you have a good night's sleep? Dunn asked with concern. Klein answered honestly. Better than I expected. I didn't even have nightmares. But I still feel heavy and a little disgusted when I recall it. Very good. I feel reassured hearing that, Dunn said with a nodding smile. After chatting about the weather, he raised a matter. The Holy Cathedral has replied to my telegram. Air, Lorota, and the company are to immediately escort sealed artifact 2049 and the Antigonus family's notebook back to Backland. They have also sent additional Nighthawk yesterday afternoon via steam locomotive to help. I believe they have already set off by now. Already set off by now? Does that mean I'm completely free from the traumatizing Antigonus family's notebook? Klein was taken aback. He found it surreal as though he was dreaming. This is more relaxing than I imagined. It's unlikely that there will be any follow ups, right? May the goddess bless them and that they will have a smooth journey. After a few seconds of silence, Klein made a gesture on his chest in the sign of the crimson moon. Dunn wore his hat and pointed to the door. I have a patrol. I have to patrol the Raphael cemetery. Huh? I forgot one thing. The investigations of Leonard and the police departments has borne fruit. They found the carriage driver that drove them. We have confirmed their temporary residence in Tengan City, but they are rather cautious. They didn't leave behind any valuable clues. As expected of an ancient secret organization, Klein echoed wistfully. Dunn nodded and turned to head to the door. He stopped 3 seconds later and turned his head. Also, the Holy Cathedrals needs another 2 to 3 days before they notify us of your application to become an official member. This is dealt with by a different department, separate from the one that deals with Antigonus family's notebook. They have different levels of efficiency. I understand, Klein replied sincerely. Meanwhile, he helped his captain add inwardly, remember to submit the compensation application today. Watching Dunn leave, Klein heard the brown haired Roseanne exclaim, Goddess, Klein, are you becoming a formal member? You haven't even joined us for a month. Klein smiled. After I consumed the seer potion, it was only a matter of time. That's reasonable. Roseanne fell into a daze for a few seconds before suddenly sighing. I was praying that you finished your mysticism lessons so that you can be added to the roster for watching the armory. But, Goddess, I have to be on duty every 2 days. I'm not a sleepless. My skin and my state of mind, Goddess, save me. Shouldn't you be very familiar to such a lifestyle? Before I joined, it had always been you, Brent, and old Neil who took turns, right? Klein asked, puzzled. Roseanne shook her head with a depressed look. No, there were four previously, five even earlier. Unfortunately, Kenley chose to become a sleepless. Viola did not choose to extend her contract last month and joined the Coy Noel Machinery Company. She's a gifted girl when it comes to creation. She only lacked the opportunity and the money. 5 years as a civilian staff allowed her to have enough savings. Having said this, Roseanne suddenly glanced at Klein and said with her mouth covered, I've thought of a good solution. Klein, get married as soon as possible. Then accidentally expose the secret of Beyonders to her. This is considered a very minor leak, so there won't be any particular heavy penalties. After all, who can lie to a person who shares the same bed with you over prolonged periods of time? You can introduce her to us when that happens, make her a civilian staff member. What a perfect plan. The corners of Klein's mouth twitched. Miss Roseanne, you can also quickly find a husband. It should be even easier. I believe that you have adequate means to divulge the secrets to him. Roseanne's eyes widened and uh, her mouth turned agape when she heard him. How can I? Marriage is a very serious matter. I have to carefully pick and observe him for a period of time to ensure that he is all right. That's not what you said a second ago. Lan didn't bother engaging in sophistry with Roseanne. He smiled as he engaged in a little small talk before bidding farewell and heading underground. At the armory, he saw old Neil wrestling with the hand ground coffee, so he sat down and waited patiently. Soon you'll be an official member, right? Old Neil asked casually as he filtered the coffee. Captain said that the captain said that another 2 to 3 days are needed. It's still a question of whether the Holy Cathedral will approve of it, Lance said frankly. Hee hee. Old Neil chortled. The Holy Cathedral won't deny cases like this, especially when you are already a beyonder. With that said, he turned his head and faced Klein. He said with a chuckle, "You must be mentally prepared. There is a ritual every official Nighthawk member has to go undergo. They have to complete a mission independently. Of course, Dunn would definitely choose an easiest and simplest one for a rookie. Beside, you are a support type here." Chapter 81, Finally Meeting. I have to complete a mission independently in order to become an official member? Klein was taken aback. But we might not even have a mission this week, and it might not be so simple. Wouldn't this mean that it will take me 1 to 2 months to become an official Nighthawk? Then only then will I get a pay rise? Old Neil sniffed at the coffee and shot a glance at him. It's only a ritual amongst Nighthawk. After all, we stand at the peak of beyond our danger and don't want our teammates to act like children who require constant care. This won't affect the salary you receive as an official member or your privileges need to fulfill your duty. So it's just a ritual to gain the recognition of other Nighthawks. But Mr. Neil, why did you emphasize that it would not affect my pay grade as an official member? Did I make it that obvious? Client touched his face and gave an embarrassed smile before asking, "Does it have to be a mission of beyonder variety?" That should be the case, but your performance yesterday was truly outstanding. You ingeniously killed a beyonder that's at least at sequence 8. I believe Fry, Royale, and the rest have already acknowledged you. Therefore, Dunn might just assign you an ordinary mission, Old Neil said before suddenly sighing. You'll have your salary increase several fold. I've never encountered something like that again in my life. Client chuckled as he raised the matter about his sequence pathway. Mr. Neil, do you think that the corresponding sequence 8 of Seer is clown? In fact, thinking back to the description from the confidential document, it did seem to add up. A job good at fighting with artifice. I can't give you any guarantees, but I think it's highly likely. Firstly, it matches up with what's said on the documents. Their agile movement and deception-based battle style are key points. Next, other sequence pathways have similar situation. Do you know the corresponding sequence 8 for Mystery Prior? Old Neil asked with a chuckle. No, it's not written in the information provided by the church. Klein shook his head honestly. Old Neil chuckled briefly before saying, "I'm close friends with two old guys from the machinery hive mind. They mentioned it in the passing as a joke. The corresponding sequence 8 portion of Mystery Prior is Melee Scholar. Did you hear that? Melee Scholar. Goddess. I don't like melee combat at all. This doesn't suit the image of a Mystery Prior at all. I can understand Mr. Mystery Prior's pursue the mysteries beyond things. Melee combat is one of those mysteries, Client said after some thought. Old Neil finished his hand ground coffee. All right, let's not waste time. Let's continue our mysticism studies. You still have a lot of ritualistic magic that you need to grasp. You also need to learn how to create amulets and charms. All right, Clan sat down and planned out his schedule for the day. In the morning, I'll study mysticism and read through all sorts of historical records. I'll submit the compensation request. After lunch, I'll practice at the shooting club. Then I'll head to the Deweyville Library at Golden Indus Borough and see if I can borrow the corresponding monograph and journal regarding the Honas's main peak. After doing all that, if I have the time, I'll spend some time at the divination club. I can't slack off on my acting. Once the compensation request is approved and I receive the money, I'll be able to buy a new suit on the way home. Yes, I'll apply for the materials tomorrow morning and try to make a protective amulet to ward off danger for Melissa and Benson. In the dining hall, adorned with a chandelier and elegant decorations, a few friends were congratulating Joyce Mayer on his escape from danger and his return to Tingen. We all read the news. Just the written description alone was enough to scare me. A man with short stubble on his chin said wistfully, Joyce, I can't believe you went through such an ordeal. Cheers, the tragedy is over now and the sunlight shines down upon us. Exalted is the steam. Joyce and his fiancée Anna raised their cups and clinked them together with their friends. Then they gulped down what little champagne that they had left. Anna was extremely worried at the time. I suspect that she cried every night. Whenever I invited her for some afternoon tea, she was always absent minded. Thankfully, you're finally back now. Otherwise, I reckon she would have passed away just like that. A young lady with cute small nose and coiled brown hair said to Joyce as she glanced at Anna. If Anna were to experience something like that, I'll be the same. I might be even worse. I might be in an even worse state. The quillin-nosed Joyce gave his fiancée, who was sitting beside him, a gentle look. Anna wasn't used to expressing her emotion in front of others. She looked at the opposite end of the table and said, Bogda, why have you been keeping your head down this entire time? I can sense how terrible your mood is. The young lady with the petite nose answered in, Is it Bogda? 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 Bogda's place. Bogda is sick. The physician told him that there's something seriously wrong with his liver. He can only use medicine to reduce the pain, but it doesn't treat his illness. He needs to undergo surgery. Lord, when did this happen? Anna and Joyce asked in surprise and concern. Bogda was a young man with short hair, but his face was sallow. His usually bright, brilliant red eyes were replaced with a dim glow. It happened last week. Since Joyce wasn't back yet, I told Irene not to tell you, Bogda explained with a rueful smile. Joyce asked staidly, Have you decided when you'll undergo surgery? Bogda's expression changed a few times and he said, No, I haven't decided yet. As you know, those surgeons are practically butchers. A patient is like a piece of meat on a chopping block, allowing them to butcher people as they please. I have read a lot of reports. They'll even use an axe for amputation. Lord, I suspect I might even very well die on the operating table. But if you delay it further, then surgery might not be able to save you, the man with the stubble said as he tried to persuade him. At that moment, Anna interjected. Bogda, perhaps you can consider doing a divination. If the divination indicates that everything will go smoothly, then proceed with the surgery as soon as possible. If the outcome of the divination is bad, seek other means. Seek it with the help of the fortune teller. I know of a real mysterious fortune teller. No, I should address him as a seer. I believe he can definitely help you. For real? Bogda returned with a question, clearly looking doubtful. Their other friends shared the same attitude. Yes, Anna nodded without hesitation. I hired his divination services, and after divining Joyce's situation, he told me to return home. Your fiancé is at home waiting for you. Back then, I was like all of you, filled with doubt. But when I returned home, I really saw Joyce. He was really back. I can testify on this point. Joyce echoed. He didn't mention that he had sought clients' help in interpreting his dreams. That was because the police had informed him that Triss hadn't been caught yet. Therefore, he had to keep it a secret in order to prevent revenge from being exacted upon him. Lord, this is absolutely unbelievable. Is divination really that magical? Amidst the shouting, Bogdari thought deeply for a moment before saying, Perhaps I should get a divination. Anna, Joyce, could you tell me the seer's name and address? Anna heaved a sigh of relief and said, You made a very wise choice. That seer is at Divination Club at Hove Street. His name is Client Moretti. Golden Indus Burrow, Deweyville Library. Klein used the introduction note from his mentor's letter to successfully apply for a borrowing pass. As he flipped the tiny card in his hand, he asked a few librarians, "Do you have the research of Honas's main peaks relics here? It was published by Lowen Publishing Firm." The librarian immediately answered, "Please wait for a moment. Let me check the records." He turned around and looked at the drawers. He pulled open the letter that matched Honas's and flipped through a card that was filled with single words that followed a particular order. On careful inspection, he shook his head and said, "Sorry, sir, we do not have this book in our collection." "How regretful," Klein answered in clear disappointment. "From the looks of it, I need to write to Lowen Publishing Firm or pay a visit to Khoa University." Meanwhile, he sighed inwardly how dated the management of the libraries of this world was. "You people need a computer. Unfortunately, I cannot produce one." Klein made a silent, self-deprecating comment and uh, turned to ask, "Then do you have journal issues of New Archaeology and Archaeology Summary?" "We do," the library the librarian confirmed. "A gentleman just returned them." He flipped the corresponding card and pointed Klein in the direction of the bookshelf. Klein went over to the bookshelf, scanned the journal issues, and pulled out the one his mentor mentioned. Then he randomly found a spot by the window to sit down. Under the bright afternoon sun, he began reading the information in the library quietly. Ancient relics don't solely exist on the main peak of the Hornacis mountain range. They are also spread out across the surrounding forests, valleys, and gentle slopes around the main peak. These relics are from lofty domes and gigantic stone columns. Honestly, they can be described as magnificent. I'm curious to know I'm curious as to how the original residents mine and process these rocks. Hypothetically, let's assume that they perform their mining operation on the spot without needing to send them up the mountain. There's a strange pattern where the relics become larger in size closer to you are to the mountain peak, but surprisingly, there are no ruins on the peak. According to our hypothesis, there should be places that don't resemble man made buildings, divine halls used for sacrifices. Palaces that don't look like they were man made, divine halls used for sacrifices. Could it be the one that I saw in my dreams? While Klein ruminated, he suddenly heard footsteps approaching him from a distance. He looked up and saw a familiar face, a face that a face that often appeared on the papers. He had a squarish face, thick eyebrows, a firm nose, short dark blonde hair, azure blue eyes, and tightly closed lips. All of these features belong to a certain famous person from Tingen City, a philanthropist, entrepreneur, and the owner of this library, Sir Deweyville. Besides, Deweyville was a middle-aged butler who Klein had met before. Klein watched them walk by from more than 10 meters away. Out of curiosity, he raised his right hand and lightly tapped his glabella twice. We are again ending on the cliffhanger. We'll stop here for today with chapter 80. Thank you for listening. See you next time. Have a good day. Bye bye.